The One Ring RPG video. I'm going to talk about something else this evening, related. Actually, what you're seeing here is just some miniatures from the board game Journeys in Middle-earth. I'm still busy painting these. See if I can get a little closer. There we go. They're going to take me a while. Still a work in progress. Got the Nazgul painted over there. Started painting these ruffians, but that's not actually what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is game books. They started out as choose your own adventure books. So let's get this out here. So these were kind of like the granddaddy of them. So you just literally turn to page, say, 15 or turn to page 20, and based on that you can kind of steer the narrative. The only thing I didn't like about these books growing up was that you would just run into a dead end and just die. There's been an evolution from that. It's moved on to game books where you actually have like a character sheet. You still turn to different pages to make a choice, but there's a bit more of there's a character sheet in the front, and it's become more intricate. The only thing I don't like about some of them, like the Heart of Ice, some of them still have that roulette where you, regardless of how clever you're trying to be, sometimes if you just make a choice, regardless if it's a good choice or bad choice, the game's predetermined that that's a dead end and you're going to die. So Heart of Ice suffers from that, and a lot of the Choose Your Own Adventure books suffered from that. Another series is Freeway Warrior. So this is very much a Mad Max kind of setting, done by J.R.R. He's the guy that did it's on the tip of my tongue now. It's just slipped my mind now. I'll be able to have a look on the inner cover here. Just give me one moment. Right, so he did the Lone Wolf series, so that's very popular among I would say, the older crowd will probably know what Lone Wolf game books are. So he did these Mad Max setting ones as well. So these are game books. They have a character sheet in the front. So this is kind of, as far as I understand, and hopefully I'm correct, is where role-playing kind of started, where they started out as choose your own adventure books, and they went over to game books, and then later they moved on to role-playing games. The ones I want to actually look at now are the Middle-earth game books. So I'll just take these across to my desk and we can have a look at these. Okay, so I've been collecting these for a while. I haven't read them yet. I've finished reading the one I showed you earlier, Heart of Ice. Like I said, that suffered from a bit of a problem where you're basically playing roulette, so you just turn to different pages and you just all of a sudden find out that you're dead. Where other game books don't do that. So I'm hoping that Freeway Warrior doesn't suffer from that, and likewise I hope that these Middle-earth Quest books don't suffer from it. It actually started out being called, where is it now, Tolkien Quest. So they used to be called Tolkien Quest, and then it changed to Middle-earth Quest. I think there's two in the series. It's called Tolkien Quest, these two. And then they moved across to being called Middle-earth Quest. So these are out of print. So, you'll probably see a trend in a lot of the stuff that I like is stuff that tend to be out of print. I do apologize, but it is what it is. But thankfully, like there was the author that worked on the fighting fantasy game books. He did a Kickstarter a while back where he published a new game book for Beowulf, and that Heart of Ice is actually still in print. There are game books that are still in print, just these Lord of the Rings ones aren't. Now, what you'd find that's quite unique about these game books is that it's, from what I read the rules, it's a bit more of a sandbox experience. So you can kind of navigate the hex map and sort of make decisions and rest and sleep and go this direction and go that direction. So it gives a bit more of the player the impression of freedom, so you can kind of make choices. And the way the game's structured as well is that you can play it with watered down rules or a little bit more intricate rules, or you can actually use the full MERP role-playing system with this, because it's made by the same team, the ICE. There we go. So I gravitate more towards these books than I do regular role-playing games, because there's less upkeep. The story's there, and you can just read the story, check your character sheet, roll the dice, and off you go. There isn't a rule book or several rule books to read. So I'm currently playing The One Ring, and right now I'm reading setting material for Isengard, because that's where my campaign is taking place. But it does suffer from a bit of slowdown, where I'm literally studying the setting, taking notes, and then I'll return to my solo campaign. It's a bit of a different breed. Now, that, as far as I understand, role-playing games evolved from these, so that with the rule books you can actually kind of continue and tell your own story. You're not limited to that one book, because the consumer wanted more than what was just limited in this one book. This one actually came a bit tattered. Out of all the ones I own, this one is the only one that came a bit tattered. The rest are old, but they're in good nick. Actually, I ended up getting this one for free, so I won't complain. But yeah, so just thought I'd share these. Curious to hear if anyone else enjoys game books. What's your thoughts about the downtime and the prep time, even when you're doing solo? When I play solo role-playing games, I actually like to play it. There was sort of like that card game that came with the first edition role-playing game of The One Ring, or even there's another card game called Once Upon a Time, and even there's Rory's Story Cubes. I like that sort of improv, very quick gameplay, where you kind of just making choices, coming up with a quick sort of two-liner, quest hook, and then you roll on your sheets and off you go. So I'm trying to do that with The One Ring, but yeah, the setting prep is slowed me down a bit, and then obviously learning the rules, creating all the summary sheets. But I'm hoping to sort of get familiar with The One Ring, that I can kind of start getting a bit more of a punchy experience. But I must admit, just sitting down and reading the setting is very pleasing. So it's a bit of a different experience. But yeah, curious to hear your thoughts, and yeah, just wanted to share these with you. By the way, I'm also currently writing a game book myself. It's set in the 80s, and I'm a big fan of the 80s, and it's somewhat of a cyberpunk 80s setting, sort of an alternative timeline, and it's got somewhat of sort of X-Files kind of vibes, and I do some writing. It's part of my career, part of my occupation. I'm a writer, but for mobile games, and I do art as well. Art's actually my main occupation. And so I'm kind of merging those two to create game books. Yeah, hopefully I'll get the series done, and hopefully I can share some more about that on this channel. Anyways, have a good evening. Bye.